This happened today. The Supreme Court sided with a Texas death row inmate who claims that he should not be executed because he did not have the intellectual capacity and he was intellectually disabled. The case is actually entitled Moore versus Texas. The justices, by a 5-3 vote, reversed the Texas appeals court ruling that said that inmate Bobby James Moore was not intellectually disabled. Texas looked at three main points to define intellectual disability. They look at your IQ scores with 70, an IQ of 70 generally being considered a threshold. Anyone above it is not intellectually disabled. Anyone below it obviously is considered in the state of Texas to be intellectually disabled. The second thing that they look at is the inmate's ability to interact with others and care for themselves, and whether evidence of deficiencies in either of those areas occurred before the age of 18. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she actually wrote in her majority opinion that Texas top criminal appeals court ignored current medical standards and required, quote, use of outdated criteria when it decided Moore isn't mentally disabled. That ruling removed a legal hurdle to Moore's execution for the shotgun slaying of a Houston grocery clerk in 1980. Finally, she said, quote, Texas cannot satisfactorily explain why it applies current medical standards for diagnosing intellectual disability in other contexts, yet clings to superseded standards when an individual's life is at stake, according to Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Chief Justice John Roberts, of course, in the usual 5-3 split that we have now in the absence of Antonin Scalia, Judge John Roberts dissented, saying, quote, clinicians, not judges, should determine clinical standards, and judges, not clinicians, should determine the context of the Eighth Amendment. Roberts agreed that the Texas court used the wrong standard and the wrong factors to determine whether or not the inmate was mentally disabled, but he said that the court also made a separate and independent determination about Moore's intellectual abilities, finding that they were not low enough to warrant a finding that he was mentally disabled. So he disagreed with the standards that they use, but was confident enough to allow this execution to take place. Therefore, he was on the side of the dissent. Thankfully, the 5-2 split landed on the side of the inmate. The Supreme Court in 2002, they held in 2002 that people convicted of murder, who are intellectually disabled, could not be executed. In 2014, the court ruled unconstitutional, a Florida law as unconstitutional that barred anyone, any other evidence of intellectual disability of an inmate's IQ if the inmate's IQ was over 70. That was the Florida standard. So they had no other metrics that they determined that they would put in consideration if the IQ was over 70. So fascinating, the commitment to the death penalty we have in America. That's the biggest thing that jumps out, is that we are so committed to it that we go through the ruminations and the machinations of our legal system, of our justice system, to do all that we can. The states are doing all that they can, not only in terms of mental capacity, but the type of drugs that they can use, whether or not they can use firing squads, whether or not they can bring back the electric chair, whether or not they can use firing squads if they can't get a hold of the right concoction of drugs for lethal injection. There is a level of commitment to the death penalty that blows me away. It doesn't surprise me from Republicans, but then there's that level of commitment to the death penalty from Democrats that you see, and that blows me away because it is not a proven deterrent to crime. It is not a proven deterrent to murder. In many cases, it's not only that. Before I even finish that thought, so many times we find people have been innocent with DNA evidence after they've been executed. Or thankfully, we catch it before they're executed. And we find out how many people have been executed in the United States wrongfully. And yet there's this level of commitment that will cause a state to fight all the way to the Supreme Court to keep their ability to execute someone, anyone, but particularly someone who their mental faculties are questionable. This, I don't know what to do with that other than to say that we're still a barbaric people. Americans, humans in general, we're very barbaric and we seek revenge, even if it's revenge against people who are mentally ill, even if it's potentially revenge against someone who's potentially innocent. All right, a few more minutes here. Actually, this is the first night. This is the first time for everything. This is the first night in a long time that I've actually covered every single story that I intended to cover. We have a bonus show. We have a bonus show from last night that I forgot to publish. Forgive me, guys. This is totally on me. But it's a great one. I told you about it yesterday. Please go and become a patron to get 2 bonus shows. You get the bonus show right after the show tonight. We'll upload that one so you can get the one from yesterday. And as soon as the show is over, I'm gonna cut off 4 minutes early so that we can record a bonus show. The bonus show tonight that we're getting ready to record is about this Washington Post article that says that there are enough spiders in the world for the spiders to eat every single human being and still be hungry. And if you've been watching my show for a long time, you know I've got issues with spiders. So we're going to talk about all that and laugh our asses off and laugh for not crying. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.